This is a voice speaking to you from thousands of miles beyond your planet.
They're coming down to take over. They made that clear to us in the saucer. To the best of our knowledge, my wife and I are the only ones left alive.
Jadri, hello. My name is Kevin. I am the Dapper Man, and I want to talk to you about the 1956 film Earth versus the Flying Saucers. This is a Ray Harryhausen film. This is also a film I've always wanted to watch when I was a teenager growing up. I never got the chance to watch this movie, only because I never found it available. I went to the Hollywood Video Store, which was not too far from me. It was 20 minutes away, but it took some time. They never had the movie. I went to other video stores that was locally at that time that was open. They never had the movie. I went to the library. They didn't have the movie, so I had to wait all the way until 2007 when this movie made a re-release onto DVD. I was able to watch this. I've always known about this movie due to a science fiction movie documentary at the end of the Godzilla King of the Monsters VHS tape. The original Godzilla. The American one, that is. Because at the very end of it, there was a documentary and this movie was brought up into it, so I've always tried to find this movie. Another movie I still have not watched to this day is Robot Monster. I know of it, I've saw so many clips. I've even watched the episode they had on Mystery Science Theater 3000, but I still like to watch the movie on my own. But I'm not talking about Robot Monster, I'm talking about Earth versus the Flying Saucer. And ever since I got this movie, back in 2007, I've watched it almost every single year. But I think last year was the first time I've actually watched it in black and white. But I'll get more into that after I talk more about this movie. Now, this movie is actually a lot of fun. It's actually something I very much enjoy. It is something I would, like I said, watch almost every single year, if possible. It has great storytelling, which is actually very fantastic, and probably the reason why I continuously watch it almost every year. It has fantastic acting, although there is some questionable motives in their acting skills, especially when something gets destroyed. There is some fantastic special effects, but the mechanical robots is not really that special. It's done very cheap. And there are some very great shots, and there are some shots that are not that great. So as you can tell from as I'm talking about this film, that there's a mixed bag, because there's like something, it's not fantastic and it's not bad, but there's somewhere in that realm where you can't help but just watch all the time, and it just, like I said, for me, it grows on me every year upon watching it, and I find myself enjoying it more and more as I watch it. Now, the movie has a very interesting concept, at least in the beginning of the movie, because in the beginning we see the UFOs right off. You don't really see that in science fiction movies, especially of its time. This was something that you had to watch like a good halfway into the film before they start talking about the UFOs, or you actually see it. This one is very, very well paced. As you're watching the movie, you're seeing all this UFOs, you're seeing everything that's happening, and it moves forward, so this helps the quality of the movie. So after the introduction and the narration of the film that it begins with, we are introduced to the newly young married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Marvin, and they are scientists and they're on their honeymoon, but their honeymoon is basically going back to work, which is not how I would ever want to spend my honeymoon if I ever did get married. The couple work for Operation Skyhook. It is a governmental space organization that is sending rockets to orbit Earth, which is very much acting like that of satellites as they circle the Earth so they can save for future space projects. However, the rockets are either becoming destroyed or disappeared. It's unknown to them, but for some reason they just can't track the rockets like they're supposed to. So finally, what seems to be the very last attempt to launch another rocket, the aliens do make contact. However, the military base begins shooting at the invaders because, well, you're invading if you're not making yourself known onto the base. And the aliens retaliate, shoot back, destroy the base, and leaves no one left alive except for that of Mr. and Mrs. Marvin. The aliens do take over and they leave the Earth an ultimatum with a choice: either join them for what they are or become annihilated. And that's basically just the movie in a nutshell. I don't need to go into explanation of too much because there's no reason for a movie like this. But as I said, it's a very enjoyable movie and you don't need that much information. I think I gave you more than you need to know. But hey, it's my review. As I mentioned earlier, the special effects that's done by the stop motion animation by Ray Harryhausen, it is absolutely fantastic. I love watching the special effects on this movie because the way how the UFOs, it's basically like they have a life of their own, and the way they move is just absolutely wonderful to watch. I've always enjoyed the other films that he actually done. One of them is like The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which is possibly my favorite and my most well-known Ray Harryhausen film because I grew up with that movie, along with a couple of others that I very much enjoy. I just can't think of it right now. The way these flying saucers move was a tremendous impact on movies with UFOs, especially with that of Tim Burton when he used it as inspiration for the movie Mars Attacks, as anyone who could see looking at those clips of the Mars Attacks. Another one is that of Roland Emmerich's Independence Day, which I've always had the hint of that idea until when I listened to the commentary and Roland Emmerich actually mentioned this movie was a big impact onto his movie. So coincidentally, both those movies were released the same year. That's a very interesting thing to notice. This is Joanne Taylor's second Harryhausen film. The first was 10 Million Miles to Earth, which is actually a fun movie to watch. I would highly recommend that movie too. She is probably best known for being beside Chuck Connors in the classic television show The Rifleman, which is a western I've always very much enjoyed. Hugh Marlowe is also in this film. I reviewed the movie with him in the movie called World Without End. There's only 2 movies I know of him in. I probably should know of him more, but I only know him in these 2 movies. He's probably in a lot more movies than I know of. Just these 2. And I believe he was in a Twilight Zone episode. Don't quote me on that though. The director, Fred F. Sears, and executive producer, Sam Kasman, will do 2 more films together. Later in this same year of 1956, they did a movie called The Werewolf, and following the next year, they did a movie called The Giant Claw in 1957, which that is one of the most interesting movies you will ever see. It is pure B-movie magic. I'm just trying to think of a better word. I can't think of anything right now. Now, one of the things I really want to talk about is this DVD edition I got back in 2007. This is when I went to Movie Stop, right here. I went to Movie Stop, and it was at a time when you was able to trade 3 movies to get a free new release movie. This movie was considered a new release. I also got one more movie, which I'll be reviewing that movie on the next review. I will show that to you when that time comes. But this movie was actually one of them, and I think one of the things I got excited for was that I finally got to see this movie for the first time back in 2007. And it was also released on a colorized edition because I was starting to get a bit more into color movies. I've always watched black and white movies, and I love black and white movies even to this day, but there was something about the color that I really wanted to see and see how well they did. Well, I can tell you without it, they actually did a very fantastic job in this. They did a great job at colorization. And for the first time last year, I watched this movie in black and white. And it made me question, which version do I like better, black and white or color? And now that I've watched it in black and white, I can't help, but I'm starting to lean towards the black and white. However, for the destruction scenes, I have to watch it in color because it looks so much better in color. The big thing that's selling me onto this DVD edition, if you're able to see this, I'll open it, is that it's got the movie on there. And it has the special features on the second disc. The special features is fantastic on this. This is one of the best special features you will ever get into a movie. I thoroughly enjoy special features on this. You get to listen to the commentary by Ray Harryhausen. You get to listen to an interview by Tim Burton talking about his inspiration for the film with Ray Harryhausen. You get to listen to Joan Taylor as she talks about her time with Ray Harryhausen, never really meeting him too much, but being on 2 of his films. There is also a documentary which I would highly recommend watching. It's something I would highly recommend if you're able to watch it. There is a very fun fact about this movie, is that is the sound of the UFO, and he tells Tim Burton, Ray Harryhausen, about how they got the sound. How they got the sound?
Great sound too, actually. It does help, doesn't it?
You know what the sound was?
Yeah.
Sewage. Going through the Redondo
I keep
sewage
thinking I
plant.
hear it out my own house, and I think there's flying saucers, so that's it.
So
Sewage. Yes. I'm thinking of all kinds of jokes, but they're all pretty crappy. So, as this film was filmed originally in black and white before it became color, There's also no rating, so if you want to know why what's inside this film, because if this film was to be rated, it would be a PG rating, and it may be a bit intense for little children. So children that are probably like 7 and under, they may get intense. I can't tell, but this is for you. That's my review. This movie is fun. This movie is exciting. It's something that I would highly recommend for any film lover, especially that of science fiction movies, and especially if you are a Ray Harryhausen film lover, as I am myself. I enjoy all of his movies. The other movie I was trying to remember, Clash of the Titans. That was one of the movies I thoroughly always enjoyed, and that was near and dear to my heart of a film. And I started learning about Greek mythology because of that movie. Anyhow, that is it. That's all I have for this review, and I hope you enjoy this review. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to this channel and tell me your thoughts on it. Tell me your thoughts on this video. Let me know. I'm curious. I'd like to hear what are your favorite Ray Harryhausen film. So if you do have a favorite Ray Harryhausen film, let me know in the comments down below. If this is it, hey, great. I just reviewed your favorite Ray Harryhausen film. And if not, that's fine. You can still give this movie a thumbs up. And I will see you until the next review. So until then, have a lovely day. Cheers. What's that noise?